Pioneers of eSports podcast. Get ready. We'll start over. This is Mr. Joe Frankino. If you look up the Blockbuster Video Game World Championships on the Google machine, and the top several results, you're going to find a bunch of articles about a guy who streams named Dr. Disrespect, who self-claimed two-time Blockbuster Video Game World Champion. So he's kind of a pro wrestling type figure. He's a good game player, but he's more of an entertainment guy. And his claim to fame on that is a bit fictitious. And unfortunately, you can't really find too many of the real competitors in that thing. But Mr. Joe here, he wrote a blog article about, 10 years ago?
Yeah, it was like right after I was just like out of college, maybe like 4 years. And I was just like, I need to write stuff. And I just like, this is cool, and I'll write this. It's kind of a unique experience for me. So I chose to write about that.
And you were like 11 or so at the time when you made the championship, so you were among the younger competitors there.
From my experience, or at least from my memory, I was probably the second youngest. I believe the youngest was actually 9 years old at the time.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Huh. So I guess we'll go the long way around then. So you're 11 and you there. So how the Blockbuster Championship worked was every store in the country, and there's thousands of Blockbuster stores at this point. This is the peak. This is peak Blockbuster 1994, 1995. They put all of the mom and pop stores out of business pretty much. And they're trying to make headway into being a bigger player in the video game market. They finally got over their lawsuits with Nintendo for being allowed to rent games in the first place. So now, the big companies are starting to embrace Blockbuster as a company, and Blockbuster's turning around and saying, okay, let's do this championship thing. So I first heard about it in GamePro magazine, and I was rereading the issue today. It's issue 59 if you really want to find a torrent of it or whatever you want to call it and download it for yourself and see what it was about. But you got to pick between Super Nintendo and Sega Genesis, which was an interesting twist. It wasn't, one company specific. Although Sega embraced it, they allowed Blockbuster to use first-party games, while Nintendo was kind of had their own thing going. And as a result, you had to play like NBA Jam and Clay Fighter and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Tournament Fighter. So it wasn't like the best representation of Super Nintendo games at the time. But so I guess I'm talking too much. So go ahead and take us through your journey. So you go to the store term when you're 11, and how does that go down?
Okay, so the way it worked was you played one game 1 week, and you just went to the store 3 different times to play those 3 games. The first game was NBA Jam. You played one half against the computer. You got scored based on how many points you got in the game and if you beat the computer player. The second week was Sonic the Hedgehog 3, which was just whatever your score was at the end of the time period. That was your score.
Like a 5-minute time period, you think?
That sounds about right, yeah. And then the third game was Virtual Racer for the Genesis, which I think it was like a time trial, just complete 3 laps or of whatever course.
Yeah, according to the thing I read today, you got a time trial on the medium track, and it just took your best lap time. So you got 5 laps, and you just took your best lap.
That sounds about right. So my score in NBA Jam was really mediocre, and I did not beat the computer. What really set me over the top was Sonic 3, because in that game, if you get a perfect on the special stage, you get 50,000 points, which is way more than anything you could get, like just beating up enemies and getting to the end of the stage.
Right.
And apparently nobody in my store did the special stage, and I did. So, like, that's, like, cool. I just win the store just from that. Like, I just show up a Virtual Racer, and you pretty much got it. So that's what ended up happening.
That's real interesting. The guidebook I was reading had like the locations of the 3 special stages in the first 2 zones. So like anybody who was half paying attention could have figured that out. But here's the 11-year-old walking in and getting a perfect score and going on to what was the next step along the line. So go ahead.
Yeah. So the next step was the regionals, which in my area was in New York City at the South Street Seaport. And it was effectively just a single elimination tournament in NBA Jam, where you just played against another human player, and you played a half, and whoever had the most goes on in the bracket.
Interesting. So where was the store that? So I mean, I guess the first question would be where you're from, what part of Jersey, New York, that type of thing. But
Gotcha.
yeah. So what was the store that you actually won? Where was that store located?
That was in Smithtown, New York, which is on Long Island in Suffolk County. There was another store nearby in Hauppauge at the time. I could have gone to there either, but just arbitrarily, I just chose Smithtown, which, whatever.
Yeah, that was going to be my second question. Was there anything preventing you from going to multiple stores at that time?
I don't remember, to be honest with you. I want to say there was probably, but I can't say definitively that there was a rule against it.
Got it. Yeah, so I'm going to disclaim that I don't remember much about this tournament. I know I took part in it. I have one of the placards here for the second one with my name. Oh, here, I'll show you that with my name on it. So I did take part in it at some point in my life. I just don't remember much about it.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a lot of questions that I'm going to ask. The reason why I asked about the stores was because Mike Iorosi, who was the Nintendo World Champion from '94, he and I went to the Blockbuster tournament, and they told us we can't play because we were over 18. They had a rule that was absolutely nowhere in any of the documentation that you can't play unless you're under 18. So we fought that pretty hard. Go ahead.
The strategy guide that I just brought up today, first rule is you had to be 20, younger than 20 or younger.
20 okay.
It was right in the book, right in the magazine. So you were not 19, you were not 20 yet.
I wasn't 20. I was 18.
Mike might have been 20. He was probably 22 at the time. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, I guess you just looked over age and they don't bother reading. It's a Blockbuster employee. So
well, they specifically said 18, and I remember that because I was so pissed about it. And they ended up saying, okay, well, we're going to get rid of that rule, and so they let us compete. We ended up going to multiple stores. I think we won probably about 10 to 12 different stores.
Was this the second one?
Yeah, the second one. I can't remember the first one at all. I know I competed in it. I don't remember what happened. I don't even remember there being regionals. I literally, my brain just shut off that part of my life. So it's going to be interesting to kind of hear your take on it and to understand what took place in those next steps, what those regionals looked like and things like that. So I'm going to enjoy hearing about that.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, I can't really tell you too much because at the South Street Seaport, I got a first round bye. So I had to wait around for an hour for the next round to start. Yeah.
Grueling.
And I got paired up against somebody 16 or 17 years old, and he knew what he was doing in NBA Jam, and I super didn't. So I was eliminated in the second round. Now you think that's where it ends, right? Because I got eliminated. I wasn't the regional champion. We're not going forward. Fast forward a couple of weeks. I get a thing in the mail. It's like a big packet. And it says, congratulations, you've been selected. And I actually have a scanned PDF of this so I can see exactly what it is.
Very cool.
It says, congratulations, you've made it to the Blockbuster Video 1994 World Game Championship Finals, the largest and most exciting video game competition in history. And then pages and pages of information. I'm like, all right. There was something else that said I was a wild card, which could mean anything, but I don't have that particular one. But I have most of the documentation that came with it. So I got a ride to the finals, and that was pretty cool.
That's awesome. So when you say you got a ride to the finals, what did they exactly give you? Was it a trip to somewhere, or was the finals going to happen local to you?
So the finals took place in Fort Lauderdale, which was their
hometown.
Their hometown. So their trip. So the way they arranged it was you had to call a number to get travel arrangements through their specific agent to get there. So mine happened to be take JFK and then transfer in Charlotte or something and then go to Fort Lauderdale. And this was before 2001, so they were able to have somebody meet you directly at the gate, and then they took you directly to the shuttle, which took you directly to the hotel. There was as soon as you got off the plane, your movement was pretty much controlled. You could not sightsee, you couldn't do anything. It was here's hotel, and then hotel, here's dinner, here's go to bed, and then when you wake up in the morning, go to convention center. It was really, really
structured.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about the +1 situation? They get to take one parent or two parents, or?
It was one parent.
So that fight must have been interesting.
Yeah. Well, it's just like whatever. It's just like me and mom just taking a flight, just like, all right, we're doing this thing, and we're all excited the entire time. And for us, it was just like it's 3 hours total worth of commute from New York to Florida, so not terrible. It's just I'm gonna play video games. It was just
Right.
it was really cool.
Nice. And so, what was it like in the finals? Like, what was it like being there? What was kind of like the ambiance? What was it like to be just a part of that in history?
Okay, so Saturday, day one, we all get out of the shuttle from the hotel, and the convention center is just, it seems big. I don't know if it was big, but it just seems big.
Right.
And the way they had it set up was you enter, and to either your left or your right, there are video game demos happening. So all around the games that I remember were games that haven't yet been released, but like were like pretty close to it. So like Beavis and Butthead for both systems, Sega Genesis and SNES. Super Return of the Jedi was there as well. I don't remember if Maximum Carnage was there or not, but that would make sense if it was. So on and so forth. But there was just video games all around there.
Was this open to the public? Or was this just exclusively for the contestants?
I think this was just for the contestants. I don't remember there being a space for the public.
Okay.
So after you get out to the sides, in the center, it was sort of like, I want to say like a dome, but it sort of was, because you have on like one side, you have like stands that go up maybe 5 or 6 high, and then on the other side it's 5 or 6 high. One side is Sega Genesis, one side is Super Nintendo, and then a little bit past that you had the actual game stations where players played in 8-player teams, is how they divided it up. So you were on a team and you just all played the game at the same time. It was just a way for Blockbuster to just organize the players.
Got it.
Was the games you played, was it the same as the qualifying rounds, or what did you have to play?
Oh, no. Yeah, so part of the packet was, here's a list of all the games you play, here's a list of all the options, all the parameters, so you can practice, and then when you got to the finals, you knew exactly what was going to happen. So
You still got that?
I do, in fact.
Awesome.
Yeah, let's see.
Dorian and I are suckers
Oh,
for this
yeah.
stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Preserving history.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right, so I'll start with just the Sega Genesis ones, because that's the ones that mattered to me.
Mhm.
You have the SNES ones too. Excellent.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
All right, so for Sega Genesis, this is not in the order that we played them in, but this is in the order that it was in the packet.
Sure.
The first game in the packet was Incredible Hulk. Normal difficulty, start at level 1. Everyone has to play as Hulk. You get the controller is the 3-button configuration. You play for 4 minutes, or your final score at the end of 3 lives, and you just get as many points as you can.
Right.
Mhm.
The next game was Mario Andretti Racing. Played 1-player single race with an Indy car. They tell you that the paint, the transmission, the car number is player's choice.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. The track is Playland, and you play it for 3 laps. Skill level pro. Player's choice on the driver view. Player's choice on the speedometer. Music and sound effects have to be on for some reason.
Didn't want it to be boring.
And the controller is player's choice. And let's see.
Interesting.
So who published Incredible Hulk? Because Mario Andretti was an EA game. So this is interesting that you're having a bunch of different publishers sponsoring this guy. So
yeah, I do not remember what the publisher was for that.
I'll tell you, I actually have it, but I don't want to go grab it, and instead I'll use the interwebs.
Yep.
We'll figure that out quick.
Okay.
I have a stinking Genesis collection behind me, but I don't know where it's buried.
So it was, let's see. It looks like it was made by US Gold. No, that's the company that does the comics. They couldn't have possibly done the game too, right?
Probably they were doing like a lot of those European.
Then yeah, I'm gonna go with U.S. Gold here. It looks like that's who it was. Published by U.S. Gold. Yep, absolutely. So it was U.S. Gold that did it. That's crazy.
Okay. The
Sorry
next
to interrupt,
game.
but we love our tangents.
Cool. I'm okay with that. The next game is Jungle Book. Normal difficulty. Music and sound effects have to be on. Triggers are player's choice. Basic game start at level 1. All players must be Mowgli. 3-button configuration. 4-minute stopwatch. Get enough points. That seems pretty easy. I will say something.
Yeah.
Yep. So about this game, something I do remember about this when I was playing it on stage is in this game, the score counter counts incrementally when you pick up something. So,
interesting.
Yeah. So
like a pinball mechanical
yep.
counter. Yeah.
Yeah. So the rules that we got, and I can go over this later, was your score at the end of 4 minutes. So once 4 minutes hits, hit your start button, and whatever's on the screen, that's it. But when I played my game, I grabbed a power-up or something or an item at like the last second. My score was still counting up. So I hit 4 minutes. I hit pause at 4 minutes like I was supposed to, and then I go to the spotter or whoever it was that was officiating the tournament. I was like, hey, I grabbed an item at the last second. Can I get that score? He's like, yeah, sure. So I hit the button. I don't make any other movements. The score counts up until it stops, and then I hit the button again. So I'm like, cool, excellent.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So they
good,
let that
good
go.
on that. Good on that judge. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, because a lot of judges might have been like, no, you had to pause at that moment and blah blah blah. So that's good to hear.
Yeah.
Because you did legitimately get that point before the time came up. So.
Yeah. And also, I was 11 years old and full of confidence issues, so that was a real win by me at that point.
Good, yeah. Good on you too. No kidding.
Yeah. Sega Genesis next game was Super Street Fighter 2. Difficulty 4 stars. Yes to time limit. Super mode normal. You may select the configuration. Game type super. Contestant may select any character available on the character select screen. 3-button configuration only. 4-minute stopwatch.
Interesting.
The contestant plays for 4 minutes. The contestant's score will be whatever appears at the screen at the end of 4 minutes. If a contestant wins,
score.
Yeah. Yeah. If a contestant wins best 2 out of 3 matches, his character will go on to face another opponent. All points carry over. If a contestant loses 2 out of 3 matches, he may choose to either keep his score, at which point the game is over, or he may choose to continue, at which point the previous score is erased. The contestant may select a new character if he wishes, or may continue to play the same character. In either case, the score will carry over from match to match. Okay.
Interesting.
How'd you do in that?
Yeah, I was just going to ask that.
I honestly don't remember. Fighting games were never my forte, so I was probably just like pick Chun-Li and hope for the best. But
right. Good choice. Picked a character that can score quite a few points, I guess.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Because when you're 11, you don't really think about how many points a character can score. You're thinking like how good the character is in the matchup. So it was a really different way of thinking about, well, what does this character need to do?
This term was in August of that year.
Yep.
Was Super Street Fighter 2 even out yet?
It had to have been. Because so Blockbuster made a big deal about a game that hasn't been released yet that will be in the tournament, and they said it was going to be in the finals, like not the finals, but it was going to be in the playoffs. So
don't reveal this spoiler.
we'll get to
there.
Yep.
And
all right.
And just so you know, Super Street Fighter came out in July of '94 for Super NES and Sega Mega Drive.
So only a month. This is pretty interesting. Like these games are coming out like right before the tournament.
Right.
Okay. Next game is Hardball 94 for the Sega Genesis. You have to play Home Run Derby, and you have to play specifically in the Florida Stadium for some reason.
You have flashbacks, Dorian?
Yeah, tell me about it.
You get 20 pitches and receive 1,000 points for every home run. All other hits within the playing field will be scored by distance. Any strikes, foul balls, or caught by the pitcher will score no points.
Huh.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to ask, did that game have all of that scoring built into it, or was there some level of manual, like where they had to pay attention?
I think I don't remember it too much, but I would imagine that if you're I think it did keep score, like it kept track of the distance, so I think you could have been able to do that, but
Yeah,
a little bit hasty on it.
sure. And what was that? How many games were there total? It's a heck of a gauntlet.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I still have a few to go, and then there's the Super Nintendo side also. So
Right, absolutely.
Well, let's go through all of them. This is good
Yeah,
stuff.
heck yeah.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I want to
Alright.
get this recreated at some point, some convention someday. This is great.
That's what I was
Yep.
thinking. That's exactly what I was thinking.
All right. Next game is Sonic 3. No options. So it's a little bit different for this one because at the store level you played it the first level, Angel Island. Here you played at Hydro City.
Mm.
Character type: the contestant may select Sonic or Tails, but not both. I can tell you that I do remember this. One player picked Sonic, everybody else picked Tails, because there's no speed difference between Sonic and Tails can fly.
Tails can fly.
Yeah. So there's no reason not to pick Tails.
Right.
So timer, 4-minute stopwatch, or until the character loses all 3 lives. And then it's pretty much the same thing. You pick the character, you go through the level, you get a bonus at the end of the level, so on and so forth. So
now in your blog post, you talked about how this is a problem because you want to go into it?
Yeah. So obviously, because you play at the second level, you need a save state where you need something or you need to use the game's save system to start at Hydro City. Now, the issue is that the game auto-saves whenever you pick up a Chaos Emerald.
Yep.
So because you pick up a Chaos Emerald, the next player that goes in the tournament that's at that station is going to start on a different special stage, which is not really good for a competition because everything should be the same.
That's a critical error.
Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of
Did you bring that up to anybody?
I didn't, but a lot of other people did. Like, this was something that Blockbuster absolutely knew at that time when the players were complaining about it. So this does get addressed. Spoilers for later.
Okay.
And that's all the Sega Genesis games for the preliminaries. Do you want me to go through the NES ones now, or do you want me to go to the
playoffs?
Yeah,
go run through those.
Okay, SNES. All right. The first game on the list is Clayfire Tournament Edition. Played on Game Speed 4, difficulty medium, timer on, button configuration player's choice, 4-minute stopwatch, or loses 2 out of 3 matches. And it is score at the end of the 4 minutes. So they're just looking at score.
Same idea. Yep.
Next game is Stunt Race FX.
Oh, it's a Nintendo game. Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Playing Speed Tracks, Novice. Track is Easy Ride, and the type of car is 4-wheel drive. All contestants must use a 4-wheel drive car. No timer, total time for 3 laps. And let's see. As long as the contestant reaches the next checkpoint before the timer reaches 0, he will continue to race. However, if a contestant sustains too much damage or does not reach a checkpoint in time, that race is over. Contestants will have 3 chances to finish 3 laps. Contestants will be scored on their total time for 3 laps, not their finishing position in the race. So they're just looking at lap time. Okay. Next game, Tommy Moe's Winter Extreme Skiing and Snowboarding.
This is the most 1994 tournament ever.
Wow. That's random.
Holy crap. Who published that lovely piece of outdoorsy Tommy Moe, huh? Is that M-O-E? M-O-E. M-O-E. Electro Brain.
Oh, of course it was.
Oh, man. Okay, I didn't even heard of that one.
Tommy Moe's Winter Extreme Skiing and Snowboarding. That's great. Yep, Electro Brain. It got 3 stars. It's clearly it's a great game. 3 out of 5.
Yep. Game type training, scope, snowboarder ski player's choice, configuration player's choice. You're on the giant 4th course on the far right, and the training run, giant 4th course far right. No timer, best of 2 runs. After selecting either skis or snowboard, the contestant will make 2 runs down the 4th course of the giant run. The contestant's best time of the 2 runs will count, not the final position. Cool.
Okay.
The next game is Hardball 3 for the Super NES, which, if memory serves, is just a port of the baseball game that was for the Sega Genesis.
Sega,
right?
Yeah.
So it's literally the same options. It's home run derby, Florida Stadium, 20 pitches.
Nice.
Scoring rubric is exactly the same. Let's see, scroll down. Double Dragon 5 for the Super NES.
Oh no.
Jeez.
Difficulty normal, time limit 90, 5 continues, music and sound effects on, controls player's choice, strength defense special player's choice, game type tournament. The contestant may select any character, 4-minute stopwatch, or final score at the end of 5 continues. Play for 4 minutes. You can sort of get the idea of where, like, a lot of these just score at the end, or if you lose, whatever your score is.
Right.
And then the last one for SNES in the preliminaries is Super Mario All-Stars. You're playing the Lost Levels with Mario. 3-minute stopwatch or best score after 5 lives. All contestants start as Mario. Mario must make it to the end of each level to gain bonus points. The contestant will score whatever points are on the screen at the end of 3 minutes, or the points accumulate at the end of 5 lives. Once they lose all 5 lives, the game's over.
So interesting that Nintendo did allow. I don't know if they. I don't know what the legal ramifications were at that point, but you'd think that they would have had to at least sign off on their games being used.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you think about what they did, even with Evo, and just kind of like trying to fight against Smash Brothers being in a tournament, I'm sure that they would have tried to pursue something at that time. I mean, obviously the 95 used a Nintendo first-party title as well, and specifically the cartridges from the Powerfest.
Yep.
So I'm not sure if at that time they were as hardcore against the idea of using it. But I mean, history might unveil some things that I'm not aware of.
Okay. So I also have the games that were used in the finals.
Yes.
All right.
So what was the pair down at this point? You know how many people were total at the finals, like for each system?
I don't know specifically, but I'll tell you how the tournament was scored, and you could sort of infer from there.
Right.
So for each game that was played, your performance was compared against all the other players in the tournament, and depending on how you placed against everybody else, you were given a number of points. So the first place person in each game got 2,500. The second place person got 2,490. The third place person got 2,480, so on and so forth. And according to the notes here, it goes down to 500. So you can sort of figure out how many.
200.
500.
Oh.
So he means points. He doesn't mean there were 500 players.
Right. I'm thinking 200 players then.
Oh, no. It's he's saying that the first place would get you said 5,000 points or 3,000 points?
2,500.
2,500. And then the bottom place would get 200 points or 500 points, whatever that number 500
was. 500 points, yeah.
Yeah, 500
But if it's
points.
going down in increments of 10,
mm-hmm.
Does that mean the math being 200 players?
That checks out over here.
I don't.
Way.
Yeah, per system. That's crazy.
That's a lot of people to fly out. Were there that many people? Can you remember there being that many people there?
I don't think it was that high, to be honest with you. Maybe it was maybe half that. Maybe it was maybe 200 total. Okay, maybe 100 on each side.
My thought is this. Number one, there weren't many regionals, right? There were only a few different regionals. And then they added wild cards, which tells me that there were probably people that they qualified that couldn't go. So my I mean, I want to come back and say you would think that there's actually less people because of the fact that they needed to fill wild card slots. But man, if there were really 200 finalists, that's an insane number for that time period.
And the regionals were technically called state finals, right?
I don't remember the branding for it, and I don't have anything to jog my memory for it.
And it does not say.
You were in a group of 8.
Mm-hmm.
And how were those groups numbered? Were they numbered? Were they lettered? Were they team names?
Give me a second. Okay. Let's see. So I have one sheet here. It says contestant name, Joseph Frankino. Your player number is 275. Your team number is 8. And then it says your on-deck time is 9:10. Your gameplay time is 9:15. And your team leader is name. So there are at least 8 teams, and my player number is 275. Whether or not they started at 1 or not is a question, but
because that could lend to the idea that there were 400 people, 200 from each system.
Wow.
Whew.
It did seem like a lot. So how many people made it to the next round?
It was a 16-person elimination for each side. So you cut from the full field to 16. So I actually do want to talk about that because all of those games that I talked about before was played on day 1.
Mm-hmm.
At the start of day 2, instead of going right into it, they determined the top 14, and then they played a wild card game to get into and then the top 2 would go on to be seeds 15 and 16. So in our packet, it says the wild card game is going to be random. And I don't remember if it was for Super NES, because it could have been. But for Sega Genesis, we played Sonic 3 at the Angel Island Zone, probably because there was so many problems with the game played on Saturday.
So that's good. They rectified that.
Yep. So pretty much everybody knew the special stage trick, and I got nervous and hit left at the wrong time and ruined the special attempt. So, that's going to happen. And you know what? Sure, nerves, and it's the first time in that type of environment. So it's disappointing, but not surprising. So.
And you're 11 in a land of 16, 17-year-olds. So this is way out of your league.
Mm-hmm.
Just being there has got to be an amazing experience. So I can't. Were you disappointed, or is it just okay? I mean, I'm anticipating relief if I'm in that situation.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed because I knew at that point it was over. But at the same time, it's okay, I get to watch the finals. I don't have to do anything else. It's just I can play video games now and enjoy it and not have to worry about it later.
So how much time is in between the games when you're playing in the qualifying round? Because are you going around to the other stations, or are you just too nervous? Are you testing out the Incredible Hulk or whatever the brand spanking new games are going on at the show?
Yeah, I can't remember specifics, but I do remember that you brought on, off and on. So in between your rounds, you got to explore the space that was around there. So I was mostly playing around with Beavis and Butthead because it's 1994, and why wouldn't you?
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, and a funny thing is, I mentioned this in my blog, that the demo version is actually unbeatable because in one of the levels, you have a senior citizen chasing you on a motorized scooter, and the motorized scooter goes faster than the character can run, so you can never beat that section.
Oh, wow. Good oversight.
Yeah. I don't know, maybe it was intentional or not, but they fixed it on release, so it was fine.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Huh. All right. So then I guess the next question would be how much interaction was there between the group? So in other words, let's say they were splitting it by system. The Genesis side and the Super Nintendo side, was there a lot of intermingling with those groups, or were they in separate rooms? How did that work out?
it was all in the same space. It was just on two separate sides of the main stage. Like here are your 8 or whatever Sega Genesis consoles, each on their own platform, and then on the other side of the stage there were 8 SNES systems, each on their own platform.
So Terry Lee Torok of Nintendo World Championship fame is also the MC of this event. Is he also doing the announcing for the qualifying rounds, or was he only there brought on for the finals?
I don't remember.
Don't remember? Nobody was like announcing your play while you were up on stage? Because you're doing this on the main stage, correct?
Yes, and not that I can remember. I don't have any recollection of anybody doing commentary like that. I do remember a commentary like that at the regional level. We had a radio personality on one of the morning shows that was doing MC duties. I think it was.
Do you remember who?
Elvis Duran.
Elvis Duran. All right, Z100, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So,
I'm a New Yorker, so I grew up there.
Of course.
Yeah.
And yeah, he was doing commentary, and I remember him talking about how in my second round match about great defensive play that I made, and I was just tuning it out because I'm in the middle of a game and you're distracting. And...
Shut up, Elvis. What was when you're up on stage? I mean, it's pretty. I've seen a few pictures and video, not a whole lot, but it's pretty high up. What's the crowd like? Is there a lot of people watching, or is this the prelims and everybody's kind of just doing their own thing, not even paying attention since this is going on all day?
It's that second thing because it was going on all day.
Right.
The players are out either like if it was lunchtime getting lunch, or they're out playing the demos, or depending on when the celebrity signings were scheduled, they're out getting autographs or what have you.
So what celebrities we have here at this prestigious blockbuster going to Fort Lauderdale?
Well, just in case you didn't know, it was the 90s. The celebrity hosts were Jonathan Taylor Thomas from Home Improvement and Jenna Von Oy from Blossom.
I would guess Saved by the Bell would be in there. I guess not.
Nah. And it was very apparent that they were just like reading lines that they had memorized and rehearsed because it seemed obvious that they were not gamers per se. So that's fine, whatever. They were there and that was cool.
Were you nervous at all up on stage then? I mean, you're 11, so did you get better as the day went on with 6 different games?
I think I did get better. The main thing I remember is that I was looking down at the screen the entire time. I tried not to pay attention to the audience or the stands or the environment around me. I just tried to tune that out as best as I could.
Right.
Did they have how did they have the stage set up? Was it something where you were kind of standing at each station, or was it like a sit on the floor type thing? What was the situation there?
I think it was standing. Like, if you can just try to like picture like the platform that has like a small-ish CRT television with. I think the game would have to be in like a cabinet or something because otherwise this doesn't work. But then like it's just on like a vertical, like almost like a podium almost.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, that's as much as I can remember.
Yeah, absolutely.
Were they using a 6-button or 3-button controllers? You mentioned one was like the 3-button configuration, but for a lot of the fighting games, especially Super Street Fighter, if you're playing with a 3-button controller, forget about it.
He specifically said 3-button for Super Street Fighter. I did catch
God.
that.
Oh, yeah. I'm so sorry.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Woo. Yeah. Yep.
Blockbuster going cheap.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't want to swap out controllers, or I guess, I don't know.
Wow.
Interesting.
So go ahead, Dorian.
Oh, I was just going to ask. So, like, when you're up there and you're going through, do you have any idea how the other competitors are doing? Like, do they have scores up somewhere? Is there anything that kind of tips you off as to how you're doing, or is it just like, we'll see how I did?
There was nothing on the main stage. Supposedly there was like scores on like in the convention center, like on the like outside. If you go out to like where the video games are, you could see something, but again, can't really tell you too much about that because it was just lost to the sands of time. So, but according to what's in here, there should have been something that lets you see what your standing was.
Makes sense. Yeah, absolutely.
So how's your mom during all this? Like, is she bored to tears after game 5, or is she still encouraging, or is she having a good time? Is she hanging out with the chick from Blossom? I mean, what?
She was just watching me because I was one of the youngest players in the tournament, so she wanted just to like. I was still at that age where it's just like you can't leave them alone, and
yeah, my daughter's 10, so I'm trying to picture my daughter in this situation, and I just can't.
Yeah, so that's where I was. So like, mom was just basically with me the entire time, and that was fine.
What was your question, Dorian?
I don't remember.
It's
one of those questions. Questions are popping into my head because obviously, there's a lot to know about the event. But like as I'm listening to the answers of other things, it's just spinning. You know how that goes.
It's really good stuff that you kept a lot of these, like the documents and stuff. That's a lot of this stuff gets lost, and the format's amazing. Even the fact that you have that. Thank God for keeping that. And I hope that, like I said, I hope we get a website up with good documentation and history. So hopefully one day I can ask you to borrow those or get some scans. So going on so you got your top 16. So what happened at this point? This is Saturday afternoon, I take it?
No, this is on Sunday. So
so Saturday was just the Sonic and that was it?
The Sonic playoff game was on Sunday.
Sunday morning. Okay. They got the days mixed up.
Yeah. The Sonic 3 was played on Saturday. That was the Hydro City zone, and that was the one that caused problems. And then Sonic 3 was played as the wild card game on Sunday, and that determined your top 6. And that determined the last 2 of your top 16.
Which is also good. It gets everybody back out to the venue again, because if everybody knew they sucked and didn't have another chance, they probably would just would skip Sunday and go to the beach or something. Yeah. So giving everybody a second chance on Sunday was probably good semantics there.
Yep. Okay, so the finals. So the playoffs were, again, this is not in order because it doesn't tell you what the order is, but I'll tell you the games that were featured. So for both Sega and Super Nintendo, you had Madden 94. And at this point, everything's head to head. So you're not playing for score, you're actually playing against another player. So it was toss a coin to determine who picks their team first. Both finalists choose their teams and compete for 2 quarters. Game length is 20 minutes and the weather is fair.
Wow, wait, two 20-minute quarters? Wow, that's a long time.
It's long. Yeah.
It says game length 20 minutes. Now, granted, in-game time may move faster than real time because I definitely know that Tecmo
is fast, but I think Madden used real time, and that could be 2 10-minute quarters. That's still pretty hardcore. I mean, most players would go for 5, but that's interesting. Okay.
Well, you said it's a 20-minute game, and you played 2 quarters. That'd be 5 minutes apiece, right?
Yeah, it says game length 20 minutes, and that's the information I have in front of me.
Yeah. So you're playing 2 quarters, 5 minutes per quarter, right?
I think that'd be 2 5-minute quarters would be 10 minutes. That's what I'm thinking.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yep.
Either way. Okay, I get you what you're saying. So you said it's a 20-minute title game. They only play 10 minutes of that. Well, okay.
Exactly.
That makes more sense. All right. Yeah. Jesus Christ.
Yep.
Freaking math. And here we thought we would never have to deal with math.
No.
All right. I'll mention this because this is interesting. The finalists with the most points will advance to the next round. If both finalists are tied, the player with the most offensive yards will advance to the next round.
Ooh, interesting.
Nice tiebreak. I like that.
Okay. Next is Virtual Racing, which was only for the Sega Genesis. Free run, expert track, 5 laps, transmission player's choice. All players will race on the expert track for 5 laps. The finalists with the best lap time will advance to the next round.
So we don't know which of the 4 rounds this is.
No, I don't have that, unfortunately.
But I'm okay. Go ahead, finish them out. I have a guess, but so.
Okay. The next game on the list is Super Street Fighter 2 for the SNES. Game select is versus battle, difficulty 4 stars, time limit yes, configuration player's choice. Both players may choose the same characters. Finalists compete in 3 battles, each battle consisting of 3 rounds. The winner of 2 out of 3 rounds wins the battle. The finalist who wins 2 out of 3 battles advances to the next round. So this seems pretty standard.
Yeah.
All right, so the next game on the list is the finals, which is NBA Jam for Sega Genesis and SNES. But I do want to talk about that one game that's missing, because if you're keeping track, there's one game that's missing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to rewind back to Friday night.
Let's go way back.
So on Friday night, all the players, all the chaperones, everybody in, like, some press was there too, was at the dinner. So the dinner was at whatever hotel, marina, or whatever it is. It's a nice dinner, and then they show us a couple of promotional things. One of them is from Shaquille O'Neal. And Shaquille O'Neal is talking about a game that will revolutionize whatever. And then he says, Shaq Fu. And at this point, nobody knows what's going on, because this is the first time we're hearing about any of this. Like, what's a Shaq Fu? Don't know. Well, Sunday rolls around, and we get to see what's up. So the players in the playoff got to play Shaq Fu for the first time.
Oh boy!
Right then and there, having absolutely no prep time on it whatsoever.
Wow. Those poor was Shaq Fu like even promoted like at all before it came out? I mean, I had like GamePro and EGM subscriptions back in the day. I don't remember hearing about it until after it came out, and how it was kind of a joke even at that point.
No, this was the first time any of us
Wow.
heard about Shaq Fu.
Goodness gracious. And what round was this? Did this take place in?
It doesn't say, but I want to say this was the round of 8.
Wow.
I think that's what it was. So
those poor souls.
Yeah. The last round was NBA Jam, timer speed 3, tag mode on, computer assist on, player's choice for the configuration. After a coin toss decides who picks the teams first, both finalists choose their teams and play a full game head-to-head. Most points wins the tournament.
And the winners were Fred Doughty for the Sega Genesis and Mark Ganane for the Super Nintendo. I do at least have that, but the runners-up or any of the other finalists, I got no clue. So you're like the first person I could find and that did any of this. And so were you watching the finals, or were you like, this kind of sucks and let's go? Oh, you watched it. Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I was there because why not? This is the last one. Everyone was still there, and the stands were all filled, and it was just it was really cool, because you got to see the cool stuff happen in NBA Jam. You got to see, the backboard, glass shatter. You got to see he's on fire. You got to see all the cool stuff that you wanted to see when you were playing the game. So it was super cool, and I was really, like, even though I was not in the I was eliminated at that point, I was still really excited to be there.
Was the rest of the crowd pretty electric for it too?
Absolutely, without
Awesome.
a doubt.
Really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And when you went home, did you get any goodies other than your documentation and a T-shirt? Like, what type of stuff did you get to take home for this?
Well, there was a couple of other things. I'm going to show you this. These are leatherless, not leatherless.
Nice.
These are fingerless gloves, which I think still fit me. I'm going to try them out.
By the way, that's amazing that shirt still fits you. I have to mention that.
Well, just remember that on 11-year-old, this shirt just absolutely fit. Yeah. This was just like
swimming in it.
Yeah.
You were thinking ahead though, man. Good on you.
Yep.
Yeah. That's awesome. And then the fingerless gloves are still.
Those are again. Those are better than a power glove.
Yeah. I don't know if anybody wore them on stage, but it was absolutely cool to have. There was another T-shirt that it had this sort of branding on it, but on the back it said "Acclaim," and it had whatever their slogan was at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know where that shirt is, but I'm pretty sure I still own it. So
Nice.
that's floating around somewhere. There was also a bunch of other like little things as well. I think there was like a Nintendo Power magazine somewhere in there. There was probably I remember there being like a blue sort of like thick like shirt that had Donkey Kong Country like embroidered on it. I don't remember too much else. I don't remember any games specifically.
Yeah.
And there was it's not specifically swag, but I do remember on Saturday night, Blockbuster took the players to their to the theme park that they owned. It was some Blockbuster theme park in Fort Lauderdale.
Wow.
And they gave us all, player cards that look a lot like the Dave and Buster cards now, but this is my first time. Like, wow, you don't need quarters to play the video games. This is amazing.
Yeah, this is pretty the beginning of that era. So this was like an arcade?
Yep. This was an arcade and a mini golf course. Nobody played mini golf because why would you? You're here to play video games.
Of course. Yeah.
And that was a good night of fun. And of course, the shuttles ran back to the hotel like every half hour, but no one really was on the shuttles until the last two. So
yeah.
Well, good.
Yeah.
You got your money's worth.
Like who wants to leave early, right? And can stay here and play free video games.
Mm-hmm.
So what was your history with video games in general? Like what made you get into this tournament in the first place?
So I wasn't really too much of a competitive video gamer, and even now I wouldn't really consider myself a competitive video gamer. I just I saw the opportunity to play video games in a tournament. Like this was completely new to me. Like I've never heard of a video game tournament before this. So I'm like, oh, and it's right here. Like I could just go to Blockbuster. I'm here all the time anyway. Let's just do that. And that's sort of what kicked that off. And it was really just like happenstance and an accident that somehow nobody else did the special stage trick in Sonic 3.
Right.
Like if anybody else does that and has even decent routing for the rest of the level, they probably beat my score. So
I think I've tried it under. I think there was a time limit of 4 minutes. I think, but I've tried it before. And I think if you're really if you're pretty good, you can probably even get 2 special stages at one time. Like if you know the exact route and get it done to perfection. But but that's something. It's crazy that it was in the damn magazine that you go to the special stages to get 50,000 points, and yet so few people did it until the finals when everybody knew how to do it at that point. But good, it got you in, and that's an amazing story.
Yeah,
all these big kids who are great at NBA Jam. Sucks to be them. You're the one going to Florida.
Yeah.
So you were mentioning, obviously you were a Genesis guy because you brought up the fact that the one that you really cared about was Genesis. What was it? Console wars type thing, or is that just the one that you grew up on?
So you got to see which games were on each list before you signed up, and I knew Sonic 3 better than I knew Turtles in Time, better than I knew Clay Fighter. So that wasn't a choice. Like it was going to be that one anyway.
Makes sense. And so what were you really into as an 11-year-old kid? Like what games really did it for you? What was in your collection?
At that point it was on the Sonic obviously I had both a Super Nintendo and a Sega Genesis.
Nice.
I love the Sonic games. I had a couple of other things I had Thunder Force 3 at the time. I had a couple of oddball Sega Genesis games. I had the Super Volleyball game that was on that. I had Pac-Man 2, which I don't know if that was there at the time, but I do remember still having that. On Super Nintendo, obviously the Super Mario line, that was very good. I like Super Metroid, that was out. That had to be out in the first half of '94, I think.
Yeah.
It was sometime in '94, yeah.
Yeah, it's just I liked the games that were there, and the Mega Man X games I liked at the time too. So that's really what what I liked at that point.
So
Nice.
this whole thing took place over the summer, right? The qualifiers like in May and June, and then the finals are in August. So
Yes.
did any of your classmates in school ever hear about this at any point, or did by the time you got back to school it had already been a month ago, and that's old news already, and you didn't even get to bask in your glory?
Yeah, it was not something that was really talked about afterwards. Like it was old at that point, and just remember that I was 11, so I was going into 6th grade. This was the start of middle school.
Oh yeah.
So it was the transition between elementary and middle school. So there really wasn't, like, it was all nerves, and you didn't want to really
Call attention
to that. You didn't want to give people a reason to make fun of you, and playing in a video game tournament would have been that.
That sucks.
Yeah.
So what inspired you to write that blog post, say 10 or so years ago?
It was primarily because I haven't like I want to just get it down somewhere. This thing happened. Like, this is a great moment in my life, because it was this huge tournament. I got to play video games, and and Blockbuster Video paid for me to go down there, and I didn't have to pay any money to do that. It was just like, here, you get to go to Florida, and you get to play against some of the best players in the nation and in the world. And I want to just get that down there. And I was trying to like at the time that I wrote it, I was trying to hey, maybe I'll be a better writer, and I can write about things that I know. And and after you asked me to come on here, I looked back at the blog, and between then and now, I've written a column for the Yu-Gi-Oh! Trading card game. I'm a more experienced writer, and now I'm looking back at that, and I'm just like, oh my god, I need to revise this. This is awful.
a little cringy, but that was early internet blogging. That was let it be a little edgy, a little self-deprecating, but it's honestly like an Inception sort of time capsule here. It's like looking back at yourself, which is itself kind of cool. And the internet is not the time capsule people claim it is. A lot of stuff goes up in smoke, and disappears. Like old film, like old video games. Old internet is really hard to come by, and I'm glad that it's still up there. And I hope that, in an odd way, I hope that blog post is conserved in some way or another. just because it was 2008 or so, right? That's when you wrote it, but that's still before the social media really took over, and people were still making their own websites and their own content. So it's I'm glad it's still up, and you didn't lapse and fall into the abyss. So and since then, when I checked it out, there were people who were writing comments just like a year ago who were also finalists in this tournament. So it's kind of a beacon for these other finalists, and hopefully we can get to talk to them and get their stories as well. And I'm just the fact you have that game list, that's amazing. I can't wait to recreate that tournament in some form or another at some point down the line.
Yeah, I think the gauntlet style tournaments are really interesting anyway. So I'm kind of excited about the idea of putting one of these together using that information that you provided. So kudos for that. Thank you.
Yeah.
No problem.
Did you ever take part in any other tournaments, like the Blockbuster 2, like the Powerfest in '94, or what?
No, none of those. I was aware that Blockbuster had a second tournament, but it was only for Super Nintendo, and it was only for Donkey Kong Country, if I remember correctly.
There was a Genesis version. In fact,
it was
NBA Jam Tournament Edition and Judge Dredd.
That was it.
And it was on a special cartridge, and that cartridge is like the most insanely expensive Sega Genesis cartridge of all time.
I would imagine.
Yeah, somebody found one in a Goodwill auction, and it went for like $10,000. So it's it's an awful game. Judge Dredd is dreadful. I mean, it's in the title, so.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm a dad. But that's the thing with these tournament cartridges. I mean, they're super rare, and they've got some history behind them. So even you didn't even know about it, and you were a participant in the first one. So
yeah,
it's. And then did you continue playing video games? When did you transition into? You talked about Yu-Gi-Oh, and we talked earlier. You said how you'd been to my hometown of Columbus for a Yu-Gi-Oh tournament. So what's your adult life like, and how did you transition over, or do you still play video games today? Kind of talk about what's happened since then.
Yeah, so I've always like played video games casually. So like I just love like the Final Fantasy games. I love playing so on, like Kingdom Hearts, obviously.
Mhm.
Like it sort of like fell by the wayside when I was in college because that's just what happens in college because
Yeah.
just things happen. But mostly things went into trading card games. So I started playing the Star Wars trading card game in, I want to say, 96. And like it was always like second to Magic the Gathering. And then when Pokemon TCG came up, like those three were just like the three, like that was just it.
You were at that peak age when that came out too, like 13, 14 years old. Yeah.
Yep. Eventually the Star Wars card game just faded away only because Decipher, which was the company that made that game, lost the license to make Star Wars cards. So they like the game was just still doing well, but then the rug got pulled out from under them and no more Star Wars card game.
That's something else you could blame the prequels on. The prequels are coming out, so the license fee went up and they couldn't afford it anymore. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, they did make prequel cards. Like there are sets that have like the episode 1 symbol on it. So they were there, but not before episode 2. Episode 2, it was gone by that point.
Yeah.
So I started like just casually collecting Yu-Gi-Oh during college because it's a cartoon about card games and I'm about card games. So I just picked up a pack here and there. Entered my first regional qualifier in 2006, and that just kicked me off a track of, wow, I like this game, I like this community. So that sort of got me into playing locally. That got me into judging locally, which is just running tournaments. And that got me into judging regional qualifiers. And I started judging at the championship series events, so on and so forth. And I was going to so many different cities for judging. Like I was in Columbus numerous times. Let's say we had the 100th, we had the 200th YCS Yu-Gi-Oh! Championship Series event in Columbus last year, I believe. We had the 100th in Long Beach, California. I've been to Dallas-Fort Worth a bunch of times. We've been to Atlanta a bunch of times. It's just,
so if you're talking like 100s, like what, once a month, once a quarter?
It's pretty much once, like the championship series events are average about once a month. Yeah.
Okay.
So over the span of the entire organized play history, we're up to like 200 and something events. And that's just amazing. And they're still going. And that's super cool.
So that competitiveness when you were 11 is still there, just in a different format. And that's what we like on the show is, how that affects people in their adult lives. And that's super awesome that I see a big giant collection behind you. So
all those are actually commons and uncommon.
Oh yeah.
Just commons. The rares
the
are
valuable stuff is in a lock and key somewhere in a bank vault.
They're in binders, but I have them in the other room because I'm currently doing stuff and I need to get the cards at a moment's notice. So they're there. Nice. They're there for that. That's awesome. So like I was actually like judging from like 2008 actively until about 2015, 2016, and I was actually like the head judge for a couple of these, and just that it gives you a real appreciation for the scale and the logistics of how big tournaments go, and that's in any activity, not just card gaming. Because like if you're like looking at like a big video game tournament, you have to know like, okay, you need these consoles here, you need this here, you need to know where all these players are going to be, you need to know when they're scheduled, so on and so forth.
You need to understand the way Sonic saves your game after you get a Chaos Emerald.
Yeah, right. Like that's,
so professionals can screw things up to that degree, which we've also discovered on the show quite a few times.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a good lesson for running anything. It's like kind of like consider all the options and you better know your crap.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean it's 1994 and this was probably a gamer did not make this, right? Like a gamer didn't.
Right.
Yeah.
This is a marketing stunt. That's well, maybe not a stunt, but it's a marketing event. Get your name out there. Get the Blockbuster name. Get that Married with Video Games More.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what was the actual title? Because it's like Blockbuster Video Game, or Blockbuster Video is its own name, but then game somewhere has to be added to the the title of Blockbuster Video. So, but it's probably what you got it. You're the man.
Blockbuster Video 1994 World Game Championship Finals.
Okay, because if you look at the symbol on your shirt, you can't really tell the order of the words. They're
Right.
like a circle and a symbol around, and you can't really. You could word soup that thing and arrange it however you want. But it's good that you have the official title, and I'll have to like re-go through that and then type it out in the description of the video.
Well, they added the word video under game. If you look at here, can you see that? World Video Game Championships 2. So apparently it went from game to video game the next year.
It's a good thing they fixed that part.
Right. Because I'm sure people were really confused. Like they were thinking it was, either way.
Did you get anything else for winning your store, I guess, while he showed up his little placard there?
Not that I'm aware of. I don't remember, but I don't have anything to that effect.
Not even free rentals or.
I was going to say that I do remember for the 2. I don't know. I don't know about the 1, but 2 they definitely gave you free video game rentals.
There was probably a free video game rental in there, but I can't speak definitively to that.
I remember the snarky comment in your article about how you had to play 6 different games, so that that was 6 rental fees.
Yeah, no kidding.
That helped pay for the flights. Did you feel guilty that you were getting a free vacation on the backs of all those late fees?
Oh gosh.
No.
Sorry. Did Blockbuster charge rewind fees? I don't remember.
They did, yeah. They had that. Yeah.
That's how you got out there. Have you gone by that black location? What is it now? That's a fun game. I guess everybody's been in this tournament can play. Like, what is my Blockbuster turned into?
A liquor store.
Nice.
Oh. Childhood ruined. You walk into the liquor store. This is where I won.
Yeah. That's the Smithtown location. The Hop Hog location closed, and nothing has taken its place. It is just an empty lot.
Bad. You got to get a picture of yourself in front of that liquor store at some point, though. That's a nice little.
Yeah, right.
This is the 25th anniversary, like this summer, so you should make a Blockbuster Championship 25 montage, and like up in kind of a sad face and a brown bag.
And a Genesis controller in one hand.
Yes.
Yep.
3-button Genesis
in the
because
other.
it's the saddest one.
So good.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man.
So, did you have any other siblings, or I'm just trying to get the general sense of like who else you shared this with, and if you have any kids now, or is it sort? I mean, it seems like the way you treated it in 2008 when you wrote the blog post, like this was kind of a weird, cool thing that I want to document, but I'm not like a superstar or anything. But
yeah, it's.
I mean, and thanks for being with us, by the way, and sharing your story with us, because this is really great stuff.
Yeah, not a problem. I have a younger sister, but she is not a gamer at all. My parents don't video game. They were just sort of like, let Joey do his thing. So it was just me and my of my family, it was just me that was just doing this.
But you're smart enough to keep all the stuff, and that's that's really awesome. Thank you from us and anybody else who's into the subject.
So at the finals, they had autographs, right? So
right.
I did not get any autographs for Jonathan Taylor Thomas or Jenna Von Oy because I was just not interested. But I did get an autograph, and this is only because of the opportunity, from Glenn Rice, who is a
nice
Miami
basketball or football, right? Basketball, yeah,
Miami Heat.
Sports.
So sports ball. So he was just giving out autographs, and there was no line. So I'm like, can you sign my Nintendo Power magazine? So we signed the back of it, and he didn't seem enthralled by the idea, and I was just like, I kind of feel you there. I'm not really about this either. So I had that magazine, and I I don't know where that is now. I haven't seen that in like 20 years. So yeah. So that's somewhere. So yeah, it's probably in a trash heap.
Right.
Oh,
Mhm.
at least you kept the good stuff. I mean, the Gun Race is cool, but
Right.
that a Nintendo, like, that's really specific. I don't think you can sell it in a sports card shop.
No, like
Not
I had
very
a
relevant.
I had a subscription to GamePro, so I kept the old GamePro magazines, and the Nintendo Power magazine probably went in the trash with the rest of the GamePro magazines at that point, because everything was just falling apart at that point. And yeah. And
Game Pros were like those staple folds too. They just easily fell apart. They didn't have the binding like the Nintendo Powers did.
Yep.
Right. Now, was Glenn Rice in NBA Jam?
I don't remember.
Because that could have been relevant. You know, maybe if he had signed a copy of NBA Jam, if he was in it, but I don't even know if he was. I don't know enough.
You only had the 2 or 3 player rosters at that point. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Oh well.
Mm-hmm.
Do you still have your Sega Genesis?
I could show you. Yes.
All right, there we go. You kept that at least. Good man.
Mm-hmm.
I gotta see that. We recognize that sound. That is the.
Sega
look
CD.
at that! Yes, Model 1.
OG Model 1 with Sega CD. Nice. That's great. Wait till he gets back here.
Mm-hmm. All right, I can hear you.
Yeah, welcome back. So the OG Model 1 with the Sega CD. That's great.
Mm-hmm. Oh, this was not OG. OG is on. It was bottom mounted. This is on the side. This is the second model.
Well, the Genesis was OG.
The Genesis itself is the.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. The first Sega CD was huge. I think it was a beast.
Yeah.
Only the really dedicated people had the Sega CD. That was kind of like the delineation there. Like Sega, you had your Super Nintendo fans, your Sega fans, but if you went to the Sega CD or anything beyond that, then you were in that extreme case of weirdo that I was.
Yeah.
I'm the one guy who bought a 32X the month it came out. So.
Whoa.
Yeah, I've still got mine. Mine's still hanging out down there.
Mm-hmm. Granted, I only have 2 games. I have Sewer Shark and Ground Zero Texas, but those are fine. Yeah.
32X.
There it is right there.
I don't know if you keep up with modern games, but there's a company called Limited Run Games that does very small print runs for like PlayStation and Nintendo Switch. And they are re-releasing some of those FMV games by Digital Pictures. So they've done Night Trap, they've done Double Switch. They just announced, I think, Ground Zero Texas or another. Maybe it was Zombie Killer. But they got that film footage, so there's nothing stopping them from putting it in 4K or whatever.
Yeah, it's true.
So they're re-releasing those things. So yeah, instead of that grainy Sega CD video, you get to see it in.
So we're going to see Sewer Shark in glorious 4D. I mean, 4D. Wow, 4K. 4D. I want to be able to smell the Sewer Shark. Right?
Yes, your Ratigators. That was one of my closet favorite games. I would never like admit that in public back in the day, but I just did now. Yeah.
Yep.
It's good stuff. Do you have anything else you want to add before we finish up here? It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Yeah.
No, I've pretty much said everything that I needed to say, and like the weekend was the best weekend that I had. Like at that point, it was just the coolest thing that I got to play video games. I got to play in a tournament. I got to see other kids that, granted, they were older than me, but I got to like see other people that played and enjoyed video games as much as I did, and it was such a cool experience. And I am so glad that you guys reached out to me and I got to talk about this again.
Yeah, this was great. Absolutely. Especially with the tournament like this, where there's really not much information out there. You know, we're going to keep picking away at people, trying to find people that can give the next amount of detail and so on and so forth. So like, this is one of those tournaments that, like, it still upsets me to this day that I didn't even know that they were regionals. I just won the stores and walked away.
Oh no.
Yeah, I had no idea. You know, I don't remember much about the tournament at all. I think they purposely didn't tell us.
Yeah, and two, I don't think they had regionals. I think they just they like everybody else who does these gigantic tournaments, they realize that it's really expensive to fly 200, 400
Yeah.
people down to Florida. So
That's a good point.
the second one only had 13 finalists. So I don't know how they parried down 5,000 stores to 13 people,
Right.
but they did somehow. And then the finals were covered in another Game Pro because they just flew out to the Game Pro offices in San Francisco. So a lot lower key event for the second one. And I think a guy from Britain won. It's a really with more odd games this time around. And then you had like that, like we said, the tournament cartridge for the Genesis version and the Donkey Kong Country for Super Nintendo. But it's important stuff though. And like we talked about in other episodes, Mark Ganane, the winner for the Super Nintendo, had the best 1994 ever. He won the Blockbuster tournament. He finished second in the Sega World Championships to our first guest, Chris Tang, and he was also in the 1994 Powerfest, he finished in the finals. He didn't finish very high in the finals, but he got 3 trips out of playing video games that year, and I want to get his ass on the show one of these days. So
yeah,
hopefully, yeah.
If he won the 1994 tournament, he was also on the Today Show because the winners got to go on the Today Show.
Oh, we got to see if we can find that clip.
that would be hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
Sure, it's out there somewhere. Maybe reach out to somebody at that at the stations that were carrying that. I'm sure somebody has the footage.
Well, it has been a pleasure talking to you, Joe. And if anybody else is part of the Blockbuster, any of these tournaments, feel free to hit us up on Facebook or Twitter or whatever we're on. I haven't got a Twitter account for the show yet. I need
set it up. Yeah,
exactly. I need to set it up, but you can at least contact us on our YouTube channel, and we want to get all the stories. There was a little girl in that Sega tournament that Chris Tang was a part of who was taking a vacation in Florida and accidentally won a tournament. So I want to talk to her. I want to talk to everybody. So this has been great, and thanks for watching, guys.